Now for this stage I've zoomed in a little bit because I'm going to be working theoretically. You can work from the photo as well, and I'll zoom back out for the final stage. So I'm going to do some blocking in now. I'm taking in my dark green. I'm going to set in my dark green. So the dark green core shadow here. And the dark green core shadow on the bottom pair. Now you can work with the side of the pastel if you want, or the edge with the hatching technique. Let's just soften the transition a little bit. Now we have a very strong cast shadow, whereas this cast shadow is affected by the colour of the surface of the table. This cast shadow is affected by the colour of the pear. Careful to keep that shape. Now an interesting thing happens on the cast shadow as well. Same way as we have a crevice shadow or accent under here, which is very, very dark. Okay, we have another one under here, very dark, the darkest bit of the scene. We also have a crevice shadow underneath this object here. So I'm setting those in a combination of my darkest brown and dark ultramarine. Okay. It's quite severe at this stage, but that's what I want. I want to split the shadow family and the light family. Let's go on maybe and work on the cast shadows a little bit more, seeing as we're on them. So we have a middle value blue cast shadow. So a cool colour. Then let's put in the background, which is a warm white. Cut that shape in good and strong. This is we're working on the negative space at the moment. It's amazing how things like this little point of negative space makes such a difference to the drawing. I'm going to leave the edges of it nice and loose. I might come in and set that dark background in the same way so it cuts across the edge of that pear. Amazing how you can create the shape by just doing the background. Now I'm going to set in the green, the lighter greens of the pear. So we've got two. We have that very, very light lime green, and I have the middle green. So we're going to build up towards that plane that's facing the light. And a little bit around the back of that cast shadow. I'm going to shift to the lighter green. Okay. Let's pull in the really light spot, which is going to be in the centre of that. It's like a halo effect. Right up towards our highlight, which is just here and here. Okay. So there's the blocking done of all the colours. If you want, you can soften the transitions somewhat, create a more lifelike or realistic effect. Try not to overdo the blending. Some people just blend the thing to death. Okay, just enough so that we get a smooth effect, but not so much that we lose the intensity of our colours. Okay. Now I'm going to continue going with our theoretical approach. Okay, so let's look at all those aspects that we saw before. So we've got our, on the object itself, we've got our core shadow, the terminator. We've got reflected light coming up around the back. Really, this is just a softening of the shadow. The hardest part of the shadow is just along that core there. Let's just soften it a little bit around here. And then lift up some reflected light. A little bit of reflected light there. Okay, but it never gets as bright as the light family. Soften the transition into the light, lift up the light a little bit more, and back into highlight. Just because we blended in, I like to go over and pull them back up a little bit. Same approach on this pear, core shadow. Let's lighten up the shadow slightly beyond the core of the terminator, and reflected light is going to be in here. The reflected light is one of the most powerful tools you have for art making. It makes a huge difference to your drawing. Let's go back in and lift up the light a little bit more. Back into highlight, and then the cast shadow also needs to be softened along its edges. So it's looking a little more realistic now, a little more natural. Let's go back into our cast shadows, get our dark accent. So really I'm just going over what I did at the previous stage, just refining it a little bit. Let's soften the transition between dark accent or crevice shadow and the cast shadow. And now let's soften that transition further between light on surface and cast shadow. Just soften that a little bit more. That's it for this stage. Next stage I'm going to go back and put the camera back on the pears and look at it from life and observe any subtle differences that are subtle things that differ from the theoretical. I'll also be looking at putting in points of detail and pattern at that stage.